So being that I'm a older producer, I definitely resonate with the title of this video. Old producers stop making beats. I'm kind of in the mindset that you never really stop making music. You can't really retire from the music industry, or you can retire from the music industry, but you can't really retire from music. The sound that is entering the ether now with trap music, guys like Ian, even guys like Yeet, guys Ian, shout out to myself a little bit there. Guys like Von Off 1700, shout out to Chicago artists. There's a classic sound that is coming into play right now. And I think it's because back in the early 2000s, it was the 80s sound that was considered retro. Now that we're here in the, starting to leave the early 2020s, now the early 2000s are the 80s of when I got started. I really didn't get serious until I started making my own sounds using a Roland Phantom that my mom actually bought for me at Guitar Center. With she ended up getting a Guitar Center credit card and bought it on the spot, literally just because I was like, that would be crazy to have. Like, I didn't even ask for it or anything. We're literally just walking around the store. I wanted to say my best friend was there with me, but that might have been another time I was in Guitar Center when I finally bought FL Studio. It was one or the other. But either way, my mom happened to be with me and the Phantom had just came out, and I was just like, that would be insane to have. And you could just tell by looking at the Phantom and looking at the entire rest of the store that that was something magnificent. Like, even to this day, the way the Phantom looks still holds up in terms of just looking like it's from the future. And it's because of that metallic, chromish, I don't even know what to call it. Like, it has a color to it that, and a feel to it that looks and feels futuristic. And the sounds that come out of it, now they're considered classic, but they're still futuristic. Back when I was using those sounds, a lot of people would always compliment me on the sounds that I would use because they knew that I was using FL Studio, but they're like, where are these sounds coming from? I always relied on the Phantom to actually create the performance, the actual instrumentation. And then I had a memory card that I would put into the Roland Phantom, sample myself, and then I would put that into FL Studio, and that's how I had a sound that was completely different from everyone else. And that's how I ended up working with all the local artists that I did work with. It was just a no-brainer. Every single time I approached an artist, they're immediately like, yeah, we need that. And I was heavily inspired by Timbaland at the time, so I was heavy into synths. I was heavy into, different percussive elements that wasn't traditional, what we consider traditional trap drums today. So, I had a unique sound that at the time sounded futuristic. Now you could definitely tell that it was, that it's dated, but some of the sounds still hold up. Some of the tracks still hold up. And what's funny, I did a 30-day beat challenge when I finally did come onto YouTube. And with that challenge, I used nothing but stock plugins and free plugins and cheap plugins. And what's funny, I'm going to tell you a story about a lead that a potential client that was a lead that ended up not becoming a client at all. And it's because of this story right here. So yeah, with that 30-day beat challenge, I used, just whatever I had available to me because I had just started YouTube months ago, and I had a paid gig, but not enough money to, start buying plugins and so on and so forth. But another reason was because I had plugin companies reaching out to me to test out their plugins, to create videos and do reviews, so on and so forth. And one of those companies was Leonard Digital. And if you guys remember, like Silent to this day, it's funny. I'm going to show y'all, I'm actually going to do the top 30 most underrated plugins in 2025, going into 2025, because a lot of you guys are relying on plugins like Omnisphere, Serum, even Xenology, which I'm going to talk about Xenology here in a second, and Contact. It's really those four that I feel like everyone's relying on: Contact, Omnisphere, Serum, Xenology. Oh, and Analog Lab. Shout out to freaking Arturia. Like this, I don't want this to turn into a love letter to Arturia. Maybe I'll clip this up, but literally a love letter to Arturia. Like, they talk about plugin companies that reached out to me early on when I was getting started. That's one of the plugin. I feel like I still owe them, but I really don't. I do. They sent me a lot of my first gear, equipment. And this was during a time where I heard other minority content creators complain about plugin companies not sending equipment and not sending software to other content creators that look like me. So I always felt really blessed and really fortunate and grateful for any plugin company that reached out to me and offered their goods and services for free for me to better my YouTube channel. And, you know, they're doing it so that I can review their products and help them create more content. That's really what it is. And that's the relationship that I've had with a lot of these companies. And some of these companies, a good handful of them, I've created even bigger, deeper relationships with, where I've had a lot of them come into my side of things as a client, where I help them with marketing and their social media and their back end business systems. So that's been a really awesome journey. And Arturia is one of those companies that, like I said, they reached out to me early on when, you know, I was using a freaking iPad for a camera and $100 microphone, and you know, I was just delivering the best quality content that I could, but really the quality of the content was the information and the experience that I had growing up as a producer and producing for my friends, producing for local artists, and sharing the skills and the knowledge that I had developed, you know, actually working directly with people rather than, hey, I just post beats online, you know? So I've always had an advantage there. And the equipment that I had early on, you know, because of the support system that I've had from my family, you know, shout out to my mom, you know, investing in me. My dad's invested in me. My brothers and sisters have always supported me. So, that, you know, show this video to your mom or dad if, they're not supportive of what you do as an artist or as a creative individual. It's really important, because there could have been times where, you know, my path could have been very, very different had I not gotten the type of support that I got to be able to have a foundation to build myself as a creative and build myself as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And yeah, it takes a lot of effort from that individual to even get to a point where they have the confidence to go all in on that, or even to do it part-time. So a lot of times that next leap comes from actually having that support and having that foundation. And, you know, for some people it's inevitable. You might even say that for me. I know all my friends and family would say that that is the case for me. Then that is why they supported me in the first place. So it does, you know, it's on you as well to, you know, in order to get that type of support, what is your history of what you do? You know, like, are you someone that takes action? Are you someone that actually goes out there and puts in the work and doesn't sit around, you know, wait for things to come to them? Are you someone that people can believe in, because, you know, you got to believe in yourself first, but you got to believe in yourself first before other people are going to believe in you. So it takes that first within yourself before having any sort of support system whatsoever. So don't go out here, you know, reaching out when you haven't even given yourself a hand, you know, especially with all the free content that's out here. So, yeah, let me not go too far past that. The main point of all that was that the Roland Phantom had a lot of classic sounds that are now coming into play. And I said that I was going to mention Xenology. So Xenology is from Roland, and I kid you not, you know, being a Roland Phantom owner, I ended up selling that, by the way. I actually got scammed with that situation. One of the most heartbreaking stories. I got scammed out of my Roland Phantom. I'll just make it real quick. They sent me a money order for more than what the keyboard was worth, and I needed money at the time. And I had a friend cash that money order for me because I didn't have a bank account. And then that money order bounced, or I don't even know exactly how that works still, but I do know when someone sends you more money than what something is worth in the form of a money order or even a check or anything like that. I mean, nowadays don't even take no check or a money order anyway. You know, just do direct deposit, y'all. Direct deposit into whatever it is that you're using. Shout out to Elon for PayPal. You know, PayPal's not my favorite. You know, you still have Stripe. Stripe's not my favorite either. I wish, you know, Venmo is basically PayPal too, but at least that won't take fees if you're just out here freelancing and just doing, you know, quick one-offs. But yeah, so I ended up losing my Phantom and owing my friend money for, you know, the fake money that was deposited into the account. And yeah, that ended up being one of the worst situations of my life, and paying back what that cost, but the interest of that on top of that, just the time that it has taken to pay that back. Just a terrible situation. And that's one of my goals here in 2025, to eliminate the friends and family debt that has come into play, because I've been able to help myself enough to clear out my actual debt in terms of, you know, what I owe companies and the credit card companies and so on and so forth. So actually, I do have a little bit of credit card debt right now. About $400 worth, nothing crazy, which, like I said, I'll take care of that in 2025. The state of where I've been at in business, my plan in 2025 is to finally surpass six figures. I've been close to six figures, but I've restarted my business a couple times just to make sure that I really wanted to do exactly what it was that I was doing. And that resulted in me completely starting from zero, starting from scratch. And in that process, I went into debt again, which, you know, that's where the $400 for the credit card comes into play, and the debt that I owe some friends and family. So, but like I said, if you are someone that has proven themselves to take action and get shit done and to turn things around, then you're going to have that kind of support. You're going to have that foundation where people are going to invest into what you do. And when it comes to friends and family, some of them aren't even investing, so to speak. Some of them are just lending a hand, just helping you out. And that's when you really know that you're blessed. And that's when you really know that you've put in some effort yourself with getting to where you're at. And they believe in you getting to where you need to be. So that's the complete transparent situation that I've been in, where, I've been able to turn things around. I pretty much have all my debt paid off with friends and family. But yeah, I've just been using this last year to really figure out what I want to do with my business and how I want to operate, and realizing, number one, I definitely want to come back to YouTube. Number two, I definitely want to continue with music. And number three, I know for sure who I want to help. And the people that I want to help are creative entrepreneurs. And that's what got me back on track. Even when I was in other industries, the industries, the people that I've been able to help the most were the creative minds within those industries. So people that were already content minded, already doing social media, already understanding the power of being on the internet. Like, there are so many entrepreneurs out here that just don't get it. They don't realize, even with me as an example of having years of evergreen content that I've been relying on. And, I've been taking it for granted, so to speak, where, I should have been continuing to upload to YouTube, which, if I'm being fair, if I'm being completely fair, I've never stopped uploading to YouTube. I've never stopped uploading to social media. You guys just haven't realized it was me. You guys just haven't realized that it was me, because I've been doing it for other brands and other companies and other influencers. So over a half decade now, I've been working with brands, business owners, influencers across multiple industries. I'm especially passionate about helping other creative entrepreneurs, because back in 2018, I was dead broke, working 2 jobs, going nowhere fast. But I took a giant leap and positioned myself to fully use my skills, not just as a musician, but my skills in sales and marketing. So just after a couple months of consistently posting on YouTube, I landed my first client as a copywriter for a music blog. And I did that strictly through the DMs. Now, during this time, I got to work with just about every brand that I wanted to work with in the music software space, with my best client surpassing 6 figures in a single month. And that was the first time I realized how powerful personal branding is, even for companies. Now I'm at a point where I just want to get back to my own brand and my own personal growth, and using everything that I've been teaching and learning at the same time, while building up everything that I've built up over the past 6+ years now. I started back before the pandemic, back in 2018, and I've figured out multiple ways to keep working using nothing but the tools online, just using the internet, to avoid having to rely on any 9-to-5. So that's what I want to teach and show other creative entrepreneurs that are serious, and I'll know that they're serious because they would have taken the free information that's out there and have applied it. And if that's the case, then you should be making money now. You should be making money. And if that's not the case, then go back and do your homework. Go back and do your homework, and subscribe to this channel, because I'm just gonna tell you exactly what you need to do to start making money. It's weird that you're not making money if you're good at what you do. It's just weird. Like, I don't understand it. I don't understand why people are not showing that on the internet, especially. And the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because it only took me a couple months to get my first client. So you could do this on the side, and over a year, you're definitely going to have more than enough clients to make a decision whether or not you want to go harder on it, or if you just want to maintain a casual lifestyle with you actually promoting your business and you still working for someone on the side. What I recommend, I don't recommend anyone go completely all in with your creative entrepreneurship and dump all of your income, dump all your income sources or revenue sources. I made that decision because I had ridiculous confidence and a foundational support system for me to even take that leap. If you have the opportunity to, and this is why I tell the younger generation, just keep living with your parents until you actually figure out what it is that you want to do and how you want to do it. Create a minimal viable product or a minimal viable service where you could test it out and see if it works, and then make your adjustments from there. And then just do what you think is logically correct. You don't have to use YouTube. You don't have to use the internet. I know that goes against everything that I'm, teaching and what I help people do, but I'm trying to tell you how most of the world works in terms of the high level people that I work with. Like they're on a high level because they're doing more things than you. That's all it is. We're just doing more than you. That's all that is all it is. And one of the things that you could do to catch up is by creating content. You can catch up real quick. You can catch up real quick by creating content. So, I mean, everyone's telling you the shortcut. Everyone's looking for the cheat code, the shortcut, and they're on it. They're literally talking on it. Like the social media is the cheat code, the shortcut. And I think the reason why I'm able to recognize that and other people can't is because I'm a millennial. So I got to see before the internet and after the internet. So I completely recognize the shortcut. And most of my business I do in real life, especially these past 6 months. I've been working with local businesses, and it just, brought me back to my roots and remembered what it was like, before the internet, and, talking about the business part of things, not just the social media strategy, because there's more to building a business than social media. And that's why I'm saying I'm not working with people that don't even have a business yet. Like, you got to actually at least be out here freelancing and make some money. Like, at least do that. Just figure something out to where it makes sense with the schedule that you have, to where you can present the skills that you have on the side until you could build that up and flip it around to where that's your main thing. And then everything else is on the side. But yeah, let's check out DJ Pain 1 and see what he's talking about here.
Man, if you're making beats and you're over the age of like 27, just stop. No one wants to hear old men making beats.
If you sampling a soul record, get that bullshit out of here. No one's trying to hear that.
They make this old boom bap stuff. No one wants to hear that.
I hate soul, boom bap.
Exactly.
Get that unk shit out of here, bro. I don't like any of that music.
Matter of fact, if you're over the age of 19, you need to quit making beats. For real, stop. Okay, that interview kind of went viral where Emerald, who's like a big producer, is going off on the older generation and hating on soul music. And he's trolling, guys. So am I. Clearly, I am an older producer.
So like I said, I'm an older producer too. I actually just turned 40 recently. I think 40 will be my most successful year. Every year that has gone past, ever since I turned 33. 33 is when I finally took the big leap into going all in with my own creative skills and relying on nothing but, what I know from sales and marketing from my college days, and providing my skills on the music side to create something out of nothing. So yeah, I was 33 years old when I quit both of my jobs. I was working 2 9-to-5s and digging holes, digging dirt and shoveling rock and delivering pizza. So I was doing all that day and night, and it really wasn't cutting it. So at age 33, I decided to go all in, and here I am 7 years later at age 40. And every year has been better and better and better. In fact, when I was starting out, it was almost like every month was better and better and better. And then reality started kicking in with, just actually running a business, the ups and the downs, and, actually living through multiple years of seeing the cycles of social media, seeing the cycles of the economy, seeing the cycles of yourself. So, yeah, I mean, business is a living, breathing thing when you really think about it. And that's why just watching videos on YouTube really doesn't cut it, y'all. Like, you got to take that information and put it into action so that you could actually start breathing with it and feeling the pulse, feeling the heartbeat of what it is that you actually should be doing and how and when. All that requires you to feel that rhythm, feel that pulse. That's how you actually create consistency, finding that within your own life, because most of the advice that you get won't even apply to the end result that you will be at with your actual business, with you as an individual creative entrepreneur. Most of the advice won't apply to you. That's why you need to start taking action immediately and start realizing and sorting through what actually does apply to you, because you won't know until you start running your operations. You won't know. You'll start running into problems. Then you can look that shit up. Stop looking shit up before you even have a problem. Y'all trying to solve problems you don't even have yet. Let's keep going.
It said, imagine being 40 years old and making something like that. I was like, oh, wow, this is my first 40-year-old compliment. So I'm embracing it. I'm just now realizing DJ Payne is 40 as well. I was thinking he was like 38. But I guess we're the same age. 84, I guess. Wearing the big ass jeans. I'm not saying Riz, but let's talk music. Let's talk beat making. As producers get older and they're still making beats, obviously there are a lot of older producers, the young dudes that love to throw rocks at us old guys, or dick riding producers that are way older than us, like the Timberlands and the...
Honestly, I have never experienced that, ever. I've never experienced anything about age. Now, that might have something to do with my looks. I do realize I don't look my age. I never have. When I was younger, I looked older. And then when I got older, I either stayed the same or started looking younger than my friends. But kind of feel self-conscious saying that out loud, but I'm just saying what people tell me. Yeah. I do have a gray hair. I don't know if you could see it, but it's there somewhere. Don't confuse the, is that it right there? Can you see it all the way from here? I don't think so. I do have one, I swear. But yeah, I don't know where I was going. I don't know where I was going.
Mike Deans and Rick Rubins and, whoever else these dudes would urinate on themselves if they ever met. And I don't like...
Yeah, I definitely look up to all those producers. Mike Dean, Rick Rubin, for sure. But yeah, I don't know if there is a younger producer stigma. Shout out to Shark. I know Shark is 38, and he is a fellow Phantom user. And he works with some of the youngest producers in the game. He works with Tumphy and who else? Cloud. Who else? Yeah, he's working with all kinds of young producers, and and Shark looks young too. Shark don't look like he's 38. He looks like he's 20 something. So I don't think I look that young. I think Shark is going to end up looking younger than me by the time he's 40. But, when I actually make myself look, take off the glasses, put in my contacts, fix my hair, I could look younger if I want to, but shave a little bit. not smoke as much weed. I end up looking younger when I'm completely fresh-faced, if you will. But yeah, like I've never experienced anything negative in terms of age. This does remind me. So I was gonna say something about the the stock sounds or the 30-day beat challenge that I did, where that ended up losing me a client because they wanted to buy 2 of those beats exclusively. I was like, yeah, I just made those during a 30-day beat challenge. I didn't even use expensive plugins. Those were all stock plugins and cheap sounds. And or I didn't even say that. I just said those were all stock plugins. I didn't say the word cheap, because then it makes it obvious, like, oh, well, that's why. But no, that's not what I said. I said all stock plugins. And he also happened to be a producer, by the way. And we could talk about that. There's a lot of artists that got into producing because they couldn't find a good producer. And I run into a lot of that because they don't like what's on YouTube, y'all. There are so many people that don't like what's on YouTube. You guys don't get it. Anyway, and vice versa. There's producers like myself that become artists or start rapping or singing on their own stuff because they don't have more artists to work with. And, some of these artists, man, they just like, who we talked about earlier on X. It's like, oh yeah, just send me trap beats. Congratulations, man. Like what are you about to make that is going to be so groundbreaking, where literally when someone asks you, oh yeah, what do you want me to send you? What would you like for me to work on? What would you like for me to create for you? What would you like, what sort of catalog, what sort of playlist? And their response is one word: trap. I can't imagine that project's going to go anywhere. I can't imagine that project's going to go anywhere unique or creative or groundbreaking or interesting. Just interesting, even. Like, just give a little bit more direction than just trap. Like, I don't think you're going to get anyone pushing the envelope for you too much with that type of response. But yeah, I lost a sale on 2 exclusive beats because I happened to say, yeah, they're I made those with stock. And he literally told me, he was like, I just have a recommendation for the future. Don't if you're trying to sell exclusive beats for the amount that you charge, don't tell them that you made it with stock plugins. I was like, all right, man. But, as a producer, I know if someone told me that they made beats that sound like my beats with stock plugins, I'd be like, right on. Like I wouldn't not buy a beat because I used Citrus, I wouldn't not buy a beat because Flex was the the main instrument, like that's stupid. Yeah, sorry, man, I'm calling you out. I kind of called you out a little bit during our call too. I was like, well, actually, I don't know if I said it like that. I don't think that I said, actually, I might not have said anything about, it shouldn't matter what's being used. Yeah, I actually don't. Yeah, I think I thought of that after, because I just didn't care. After that, I was like, yeah, all right, man. And I just kind of let it go. Yeah, because that mindset is just ridiculous to me. Like he was talking about like binaural beats and the whole 432 frequency thing. I knew exactly what he was talking about, but I didn't want to get into it, so I acted like I was stupid about it. And I was Man, like, go listen to some binaural beats and go change your life. Y'all really think that's doing something to y'all? Like, um, and that's not to say that frequencies don't have an effect on people, but what the funny thing is like the logic behind what the whole 432 and there's other frequencies too, other tunings that people can do, but it doesn't fucking matter. Like, you're still hit. Like, it's not like you're only playing one note in a song. Like, what matters is the combination of frequencies. So that's why we play chords. That's why we play counter melodies and harmonies, and and we add instruments on top of other instruments that are playing the same line. That's why we have bass. That's why we have treble. Like, it's that combination of things that makes the emotion, the feeling. This is why with the tuning that we have, people are saying the counter argument would be, yeah, the tuning that we have, it's causing all this negative frequencies. That's usually what they say, like these negative frequencies. So that would mean every hymn, every gospel song, Joy to the World, every Christmas song is giving you a negative feeling. And it's not, because you've sang Joy to the World and you didn't have a negative feeling. It's the combination of notes that creates the frequency. And everyone knows that in actual science. It's the combination of, because there's phasing that happens. Certain frequencies will get canceled out when you combine other frequencies with another frequency, and certain tones will resonate, and certain frequencies will resonate, creating a specific tone. And that's how you get the tone, specific tones that might be negative or positive. It's not the overall tuning of any particular song, because that's how you get transposition. That's how we get A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's why you could play the same song 12 different ways in 12 different keys, So even when you tune everything to 432, you're not still hitting 432. Like, if 432 is the golden frequency, then you're just going to sit there and hit whatever note you decide to represent 432, and then just listen to that all day, if that's so good for you. Just sit there and just listen to 432 and then create the experience that you're looking for. Like, that's not how music works. And it's just so ridiculous that people get so obsessive with things that don't matter. Just make good fucking music. It's an excuse for you to not make good music. You think your music sucks because it's not 432? Man, get out of the clouds. Like, go write something. Go write something good. And then tune it to 432 and see if all of a sudden you and they do it for money. It's all money mindset. Like, oh, I'm going to make 432 to change the world. And you want to change the world to make more money. That's how I always represent that mindset in my head. The people that want that 432, like, it's always, I don't know. Like, yeah, maybe there's some people that are really out there like, oh, I really want to change the world with my music, and to do that, it needs to be in 432. Then you're just weird. Like, there's the people that want to do it for money, and then there's just the weird people that don't even understand their own logic and haven't even done any real research except for watch a couple YouTube videos. Like, that all you did was watch some YouTube videos. You didn't do any research. That's all you did. That's that talk. That is that talk. And then everyone else is just trying to take advantage of, well, all my songs are in 432, so you should listen to my music because it's going to heal you. Get out of here. Get out of here. Oh, man. Just make a good song. Just make a good song first, and then let me tune it to 432 if I really like it. Oh, man. And I can't wait for the day for science to actually prove me completely wrong and show that, hey, all the music should be, middle C should be tuned to 432. And all of a sudden, like, we're living in heaven. Like, I would love for that day to come. But I'm not going to hold my breath.
So let's just talk about the older producers, because there are two types of older producers. The kinds of older producers who embrace changes in music and embrace new music, new generation sounds, and then the older producers who completely resist anything new. Luckily,
so I've always battled against this even when I was a kid, because people from my generation will even attest to this, because you could even see it in the comment that DJ Payne 1 showed. His comment said, dang, I can't believe a 40-year-old is producing something that sounds like this. Our generation, being 40, boom bap still sounded old to us. Okay? Like, boom bap sounded old to us. So I never liked boom bap. I'm from that generation, and I don't like boom bap. I know the kid was trolling at the beginning of this video, but I actually feel that way. I hate it. It's disgusting to me. Most hip hop I don't like. So let me lose a bunch of subscribers real quick. I like music. When I started getting into hip hop, I remember my older half brother, he played Tupac for me, some West Coast. I was like, okay, I like his voice. His voice is dope. Dad won't let me listen to this because he's cursing too much, but the beats they were lame to me. Like, I didn't like the beats. I was never a Dr. Dre fan until Eminem. So, and I've lived in Michigan. I'm not from Detroit. I am from the Midwest though. But it was the production that he gave Eminem that made me fall in love with Dr. Dre. Sonically, bar none, like no one was doing what Dre was doing. And it made me go back and appreciate the early West Coast sound as well. Appreciate it. I still didn't like it. I still didn't like it for my taste, but I appreciated it and the vibe that it gave. But I was never into that vibe, you know? I was never into that for listening to music. That being said, GNX, I might have recorded a video. Maybe I'll drop in that clip because I probably won't do it justice with what I'm about to say now. But GNX, yes, like, wow. Like, I literally said, wow. I did not know West Coast beats could sound like that. Like, wow, finally. Like, they modernized it. And I don't even want to say modernized it because in my head, West Coast could have sounded like that back in West Coast days. But to me, there just wasn't enough. Like, the reason it wasn't, I think there just wasn't enough producers producing West Coast music. There was a lot more of, back when, like I said, when I finally did start listening to music, it was because of guys like T.I., it was because of Jeezy, Jay-Z back in the day. The first album I ever bought was Jay-Z Volume 2. So I was definitely more into the East Coast sound, Biggie, Diddy. Yeah, maybe not so much anymore. But yeah, I was definitely more into the East Coast sound. I lived in Virginia for a while. So Pharrell, Timbaland. I mean, come on, y'all. Like, I was into the musicality of things. And when East Coast production would sample music, they would find it wasn't always soul, you know, it wasn't always Jay Dilla drums, you know, like they would mix it up. Like, there would be synths, there would be bells, there would be other sounds. And no one did that better than the South. No one did it better than the dirty South. Like, you had the Runners, you had Manny Fresh, you had Shoddy Red. Like, man, so many producers that were incorporating a lot of other instrumentation into their beats. And yeah, I just really loved the fact that it didn't sound like a loop. Like they were adding sections into their songs, you know, like there are different parts, different moments, different ways to feature artists, you know? And I liked the exploration of combining genres that way rather than, hey, I'm going to take a soul sample and put these soul drums on it. Like you're trying to sound old. You're trying to sound old. I only like the old stuff when you try to make it sound new and fresh. That's what I look for when it comes to sampling. And I'm not a sampler. I make everything from scratch. Why? Not because I think making everything from scratch is better. I literally like making music. Shoot me. Like I literally just like making music. I don't like dragging and dropping and then just making a line and then dragging that somewhere else and then making another cut there and then dragging that and then pulling the edge of that to stretch it out or to make it short. I wanted to make the thing that I'm stretching out and cutting and making shorter. Like I want to make that before I do all of that. Like you're missing all the fun stuff. You're missing all the fun stuff. Like this is the stuff that I hate. This is the tedious stuff. Like this is the stuff that I'm using to manipulate the cool stuff, but I'm only doing this because I'm starting with something that sounds really cool and I'm about to make it sound cooler. But it all came from the inspiration from the cool stuff. I like making that. I like that process. And I get that some people don't really like making music that way. Like not to say that sampling and chopping and all that isn't making music. You're still making music. But I'm saying that I actually like composition. I actually like composing and creating the melodies and creating the bass lines and the chord progressions and making those harmonious with one another. Then I like the sound design. Now I know a lot of people don't like sound design, so I'm more on the creation side of things when it comes to what you guys like manipulating. You guys are more on the manipulation side of things. I'm more on the creation side of things. I'm more on the creation side of things. You're more on the processing side of things. And I love processing. I know some people don't like mixing. I love mixing. I love mixing. I don't like mixing for other people though. I love mixing my stuff because I get to listen to my melodies. I get to listen to my chord progressions. I get to listen to my drums. And I'm just going to say it out loud. I literally think that I make better beats than most people in existence. So I'd rather listen to that and mix that rather than, here's another trap beat with this weird bass sound that doesn't even hit. And now we got to make this kick hit right. Well, maybe we need to just replace the kick altogether. Like y'all ain't even choosing the right sounds. And that's not to say that I've not been in that, like, you know, it's a progression. I've been in every single one of those situations, you know, leading up to where I'm at now. But I think that's why people don't do what I do now, because it is a progression. You do have to do work. You do have to put in the effort to produce the way that I produce. Now, that's not to say that you can't make better beats than I do. There's plenty of people that make better beats. I'm just saying, you know, just globally, if we're just comparing literally everyone that's living on the planet and the entire population, yeah, there's very few people that make better beats than I do in terms of what I look for in production. So I have my own taste. I have my own style. I have my own, and that's why I was saying in another video, don't copy me. Don't copy my Type B channel. Like you don't understand what everyone else is doing out here. You don't understand our back end. You don't understand why we're uploading what we're uploading. So don't copy when you don't understand those things. And that's not to say I don't have a secret Type B channel that y'all don't know about, where I do things properly. And I would never tell you about that because as soon as you find it, you destroy it. Y'all be doing things like, because everyone that's watching this video, if a small percentage of you are artists, and there's this weird thing that producers do, and maybe it's other creatives as well, where they will go on a production type beat channel and listen to those beats. And then now the algorithm's getting all screwed up because you got a bunch of producers listening to your music and not your actual target. So, yeah, you will never know about what channel I'm uploading to. Other than the Inflightmuzik Beats channel, because, all the producers know about that channel that I've ever talked to, because I cross-promoted that with my main channel. Again, experiment, don't copy, but got plenty of great feedback. Every experiment that I've done has benefited me with either proving my point or showing me another way or generating a new idea off of that. But I've never ran an experiment where it hurt my business or destroyed my channel or anything like that. Like everything that I've done. And that's why y'all need to stop being so scared about uploading. And I almost made this point in another video about YouTube, why I love YouTube so much. And it's because YouTube, you got to remember, YouTube is a search engine first, then it's a social media platform. And because it's a search engine first, you can do a lot of experiments because no matter what, YouTube will still show your videos to people that are looking for those videos, no matter what. It doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter if your previous video was about, I don't know, cooking. And then your next video is about, making beats. The algorithm will show the people that are looking for that video, well, based on what you've done previously. Well, that actually leads to another point. So yeah, it only works to a certain extent. So let me backtrack a little bit. Because the point that I'm trying to make is when you're experimenting within what it is that you're doing or what you're trying to accomplish within a channel. So if you already know that you're trying to sell beats, or you already know that you're trying to sell art or sell a book or sell your services or whatever it is that you're trying to monetize, that process should have a lot of experimentation in it. And then outside of that, that's why you wouldn't end up with a cooking video and then a video on music production. That just wouldn't happen in that sense. So, but the reason I brought up that example is because even in that case, your cooking video is still going to be shown to people that are interested in music production. So that's why you can never really destroy your channel. What you can do is try to pivot it and waste your time with going back and forth between the two, because it takes a while to pivot unless there's strategies to pivot fast. There's strategies to pivot fast, which is something that I've done with channels before. But typically for your normal everyday person that's not doing this full time, it could take months and months for you to actually fully transition. And that's if you do it the right way. And the right way to do it is to actually fully pivot and, go from cooking into music production or vice versa. The only way you destroy your channel is by, and even this wouldn't destroy your channel because again, it would just take a long time for you to change the course of it. But the only way to hurt your channel is by doing multiple topics on anything and everything. That's the only way that you actually destroy your channel. So if you're not doing that, which I don't think any of you are, I've had friends that do that. Literally cat videos, and then videos about selling books, and then videos about cooking, Literally those three things. I can't believe those are the three things. I think that's why that was in my head. I think that's literally why that was in my head. So, and this is why I don't work with someone that hasn't actually started a business, because a lot of people are going through stuff like that where they haven't even done step 0 correctly. And I'm not going to sort that out when because in that instance, I pointed that out, and the response back was, well, I want to do what I want to do on my channel. And that's why I don't even entertain or work with anyone that hasn't actually started a business, because nowhere in their right mind would they ever say anything like that or do something like that, where they just like, well, this is the way that I want to do it. Like, you have to be able to, like, I shouldn't have to explain to someone that, well, there's a difference between a personal social media channel and a channel that you're using to grow your business. Like, I shouldn't have to explain stuff like that to someone. So that's why and that's, an extreme example, but there's plenty of examples leading all the way up to actually having a business that is generating income. There are a lot of things that you need to go through as a person, as an individual, as a creative, as an entrepreneur, to start to even get to the point where you're actually making money, that I am not going to coddle you with because it's all for free on the internet. So you need to go out there and start looking it up and, or subscribe to the channel and watch everything that I teach you here. Like, I need to know what people do with the free information for me to sort out who's actually capable of this, who is actually capable of doing what I do to the level that I do it, and scaling the way that I'm about to scale it. Because if you can't even do the free, stuff, then I can't help you. I really can't. Like, I'm not qualified, I guess. I wouldn't be qualified to help you if you can't take action on free knowledge, proven knowledge that has been worked and over and over and over again, So, yeah, if you're not able to do anything with that, then yeah, I am not qualified to help you. So it's just a way for me to, one, weed people out, and two, provide value for free. Like, I know that it's absolutely going to help a small handful of you that actually decide to take action and put things into play. And from that small handful, that's when you'll be ready to implement the systems that I run, the systems that I use to grow my business and scale my business, and the systems that I use to work less hours, the systems that I use to create content faster, the systems that I use to hire help, the systems that I use to network. That's implementation. That's totally different than just having the knowledge or having information. Because I could tell you all day long how I actually network, but if you don't have the tools and the resources to do it, then your networking is not going to be as good as mine. If you don't have the tools and the resources to automate your business is not going to run as smooth as mine. If you don't have the tools and the resources to create content consistently and create outreach systems and track your customers, your business is not going to operate as smooth as mine. Like, it's that simple. Like, you could have you could be a clone of me and have all the knowledge. I know that I cannot run my business as smooth as I could if I were not implementing all the 6 years of systems and processes that I've learned to implement over the past half decade. So, and sometimes it's more than just what you're implementing. which would go beyond, the information, the implementation. Sometimes it's iteration or, iteration in a different sense, not iteration as in like making a change but iterating in terms of highlighting what you should be focusing on, and which is more like a mindset thing. Like sometimes you have the right information and you even have the right tools, but you're using them wrong, or you're not doing the right things with them, or you're not using them as effectively as you could. And that's something that I've dealt with going through the different processes and strategies that I've tried implementing over the past 6 years. So those are the type of things that you only learn by taking action and starting your business and operating it and seeing what actually is a problem. That's when YouTube is helpful. YouTube is not really that helpful when you're just getting started and you're just trying to figure out what you want to do. Like, you got to figure out that for yourself and then do it. And then do that. So you figure out what problems you actually have with doing what you want to do. That's the great thing about this sort of lifestyle, which I think everyone is moving towards right now. And we as creative entrepreneurs, we have an exclusive advantage over the rest of the population because we are creatives. We can create. We can create. And, that's probably another reason why I love that composition process, why I love mixing and arranging and things like that. The things that other people don't like doing, because there's a spectrum to everything. There's extreme creation, and then there's creation manipulation, and then there's just creation oversight, or not oversight. And then there's just creation supervision, where you're just kind of watching the process. People that just enjoy watching the creation process. They don't necessarily like doing it. They don't even actually like being involved with it. They just like seeing it happen or seeing the results of it. So depending on where you are on that spectrum will determine, what sort of business you get into. But all of those things, you should have some sort of online representation of what it is that you do and how you do it. And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a personal brand. It just means that your business needs to be represented somehow, some way.
I DJ, I work in schools, I work with younger artists, so I'm listening to new stuff. And a lot of times,
in fact, I DJ'd in pretty much all the top spots in St. Louis. And when I say top spots, I mean like, man, my history is insane when I really think about things. I mean, beyond all of the hottest club in St. Louis. No, I mean like, like the freaking Science Center. I mean like Anheuser-Busch. Like, I've literally DJ'd in the top places in St. Louis. So, I'm definitely grateful for those opportunities. And that, that goes back to what I was talking about. Like, you got to take action. Like, I knew that I was someone that wanted to get into the music industry, but I didn't necessarily know how. I just knew that I wanted that to be my end result, right? DJing seemed like a possible path, So you try these things out, you feel them out, and you make your decisions from there, and you solve your problems from there. So I found the best way for me to do it was making connections with the company and having them book my sessions for me. And because of my personality and the level of enthusiasm and, my past experience hosting parties and, you guys don't know about all that stuff. Like, my marketing background and event planning background is pretty deep when it comes to everything that I'm doing today. In fact, I just promoted the biggest real estate investor meetup in St. Louis just a couple months ago, and that had 30 plus speakers from mainly focused here in St. Louis, but pretty much the biggest names in the real estate game here in St. Louis. So I've been doing events for a really long time, and that process has taught me a lot of different things about promotion and marketing, and getting a business either launched or taking it to the next level. That experience, I felt like, would play well into me being a DJ, and I did that for about a summer and got gig after gig after gig and landed just some really awesome venues. And I think I was given those opportunities because of kind of just how I carried myself and how I built up my past experience before I even had gotten to that point. So I'm really blessed with those opportunities. And but I realized that wasn't for me, even though it was just doing it on the weekends. It was still a lot more time consuming than I had realized. And the pay that I was getting, I was making hundreds of dollars in a weekend for a few hours of work, but it still wasn't as smooth as what I would like it to be. Like, maybe had I owned a DJing company, that would make more sense for me. And I think that's really what the realization was, that if I really want to be a DJ, I think I would want to own a DJ company and not be the DJ, And that's what I was talking about in terms of being a creative. Like, where do you fall in that spectrum? Are you the person making the creation? Are you creating it? Or are you the person manipulating the creation? Like, for instance, as a DJ, sometimes I would have a photographer too. So that photographer is helping the atmosphere. You're a part of that creation. You're manipulating the, what's there, the opportunity there, or the creation that is there, the DJ event. Or are you someone that likes to kind of supervise or manage, direct, organize, network? And that's definitely me. That's consult, coach. That's definitely more my expertise, rather than being the guy that's spinning the records. I'd rather be the person that is setting up the gigs and making the events happen and making the events better. Because as the DJ, I was only so much in charge of, what was actually happening. And that's not to say that I wasn't in charge of a lot. In fact, I loved the reactions that I got at the end of those nights with the actual hosts of the parties and events. And I did weddings as well, not just parties. In fact, the Science Center event, that was a wedding. Balla. Like, who has a wedding reception in the freaking observatorium in the St. Louis Science Center? Like that. Yeah. That was another cool thing about that gig. Like, you end up making connections with people with a lot of money. That's what I love most about doing the event and networking type events, because you meet the coolest people on the planet. Especially when you do the local ones, you meet the top people in the local area. Like, those are the type of people that do events, that come to networking events, because they understand the possibilities of growing or scaling their business from doing that. So And that's actually, you know, how I pretty much got started when I moved down here from Michigan. I decided to start networking locally again. I'm not too far from St. Louis. So I'm back here in the area. And yeah, I immediately started networking by doing free content. I just said, hey, just started reaching out to the local music studios. Like, y'all got to think outside of the box, y'all. Like, what are y'all doing? Like, you got a phone. You got you got a phone that's better than my vlog camera is not as good as most of y'all the camera on your phone. I have a freaking iPhone 10. Look how beat up this thing is. I have an iPhone 10. I'm finally upgrading to the 16. It's in the mail. It's in the mail. Shout out to Sis for sending me that. Yeah, my sister is literally sending me the latest iPhone as a Christmas present. So, but I've been rocking with a freaking 10. She was like, you know, we were gonna upgrade our phones, but she was like, you know, I was gonna upgrade my phone, but you still have a 10. We got, I think they have a 14. So they're like, I don't think that this new phone's too much different than what we have now. So if you want to get the upgrade, you can. I was like, sure, send that over. Because I was going to get one anyway. So yeah, I feel like that works out. So, and not to say that the iPhone 10's camera is bad. In fact, I still use it as a B cam. So anyway, DJing was a really fun experience, but it wasn't something that I wanted to keep doing unless I decided to start a DJ company. And ultimately, I decided I didn't want to do that either. And that's actually right around the time that I started, that I said, you know what, I'm just going to work and try to figure out what I actually want to do. Sometimes you got to slow down to speed up, y'all. Like, even though I knew that I still wanted to do music, I decided, you know what, I want to do music, but not like this. So I quit that and I picked up 2 9-to-5 jobs. Or no, you know what? I quit that and I picked up my second 9-to-5 job. That's what happened. I picked up my second 9-to-5 job. So I was already, I can't remember if I was already delivering pizza or if I was working for my buddy installing egress windows. But I was doing one or the other, and then I added on DJing, and then I decided to just work 9 to 5 at 2 different jobs to make up for not DJing, which almost balanced out. You know, I had to work a lot more hours to make up for the DJing, but it gave me time because the type of jobs that I was doing, it had no outside communication with other people, really. You know, delivering pizza, you're sitting in your car thinking or listening to music, and then, or reviewing your mixes if you're a producer, you know, and then shoveling dirt and moving rock and breaking up concrete with a sledgehammer. Spend a lot of time thinking. You spend a lot of time thinking. So, yeah, there's not like, you're not doing a lot of there's not a lot of brain activity required to do those things. So you're just, you got plenty of time to think about what your next moves are. And that's exactly what I did. And then finally made the decision to go all in on music and see what blossomed from just showing people what I do and how I do it online. And that's how I ultimately started my career in the music industry and ended up working with all kinds of companies, from plug-in companies to, working with individual business owners and influencers and brands across multiple industries: cannabis, home services, real estate, finance, law, entertainment. Yeah, I've done it all. I've really done it all. Coaching, consulting. I've worked with companies like that. I've worked with companies that have bought out other companies. I've worked with companies that have merged with other companies. Worked with companies that have started completely over from scratch with rebranding. That's actually my specialty. And I hate saying that out loud because that is so much work. But it's the highest paying work that I do is helping a company rebrand. But it's also it's the hardest work, but it's the most fun and most rewarding because, any company that's rebranding, that means obviously they've been running a business and they're usually transitioning into something more scalable or transitioning into something bigger, better. They already have a process in mind. They just need to fine tune it. And when I say rebranding, that does not mean I'm going in and making their logos and like choosing what font to like. No. I go in there and we actually create the strategy. Like, yeah, obviously, if you need a new logo, get the new logo. And then we bring in experts that actually can create that for you. Or, we at least go through the process of figuring out what your logo needs to be. And then we actually get a logo artist to create it. But I'm not a logo designer, That reminds me of what I was saying about being the DJ versus owning a DJ company. Like, I'm not the logo designer. I'm not the thumbnail designer. I'm not the script writer. I've done all those things and I'm really good at all those things, but it's because I'm good at those things is why I'm able to hire out for those things and delegate out for those things or manage or direct those things. But in terms of, being the actual person that's editing your videos, like, what are we talking about? No, no, you're going to edit your videos. I'm going to teach you how. Or you just hire the person that edits your videos and we make sure that they are of quality, and that's it.
I'll admit nowadays that the newer beats are very different from what I grew up on and very different from what I was making when I first started making beats. And it goes kind of against my intuition a lot of times because a lot of these new songs are breaking the rules that were beaten into our heads when we came up. For example,
before he gets into the example, so I've watched the video all the way up until here. So I don't know what he's about to say. But distorted 808s, distorted instruments, complex melodies, offbeat snares, even halftime instead of boom bap's traditional, I guess you would call it full time or regular time, normal tempo. But when you double the tempo, which is what most of us are doing in trap music, you're now positioning your drums in halftime. You're spacing them twice as far away from each other than you would if you're on a 90 or a 80 or a 60 BPM grid instead of 120, 140, 180. So, yeah, those are the things off the top of my head. Let's see what he talks about here. Another one. This is my favorite one, actually. Arrangement. Y'all be doing these 1 minute arrangements and I freaking love it. I love it because I hope this becomes normal because I want artists to arrange their beats now. So what I've been doing, you get an intro, a hook, or an alternate version of the chorus, and then the verse, and then the actual hook, the full hook, full chorus, and then an outro. And then they could rearrange that however they like because they could use that outro, they could layer with drums and, well, I was going to say, I'm thinking about them having stems, but the whole point of this is not having the stems. So, with that one verse, you can make alternate verses with that outro, the intro even with dropouts, and then the alternate hook. And then no matter what, you have, you know, your actual hook, your actual chorus. So they have all the components that they need to make a 2-verse or even a 3-verse song if they're really creative. But most songs nowadays only have 1 or 2 verses. And I like these shorter beats because of the algorithm as well, because a lot of these people are not listening to a 3-minute beat, especially if the 3rd verse is the same as the 1st verse, you know? And a lot of people are not expecting a 3rd verse change up. And that's something that I used to do. I've tested this. I've done this with almost all of my beats in a 30-day beat challenge. I uploaded a brand new beat every day, and every single beat, maybe minus 1 or 2, but I promise you pretty much every single beat had that 3rd verse do a switch up. But no one ever gets to that 3rd verse. They listen to the intro, maybe the 1st verse, maybe the hook if they actually like that verse, and then they're out. Like, unless they really like the beat, you know, there are people that listen to the whole beat, but I'm just talking about the majority of people. You know, the majority of people are listening to 1 minute of that beat. They get that verse, they get that hook. And then if they really want it, if they really want to, you know, compose to it without even downloading it, guess what? They're listening to that 1 minute over and over and over and over and over and over again and writing their verses to that. I think it's a smarter play. I like these shorter arrangements, and then you arrange it. I'll give you all the pieces, and then you arrange it. You create your 2nd or 3rd verse, especially if the 2nd or 3rd verse is going to sound the same anyway, because that's what you were expecting. You didn't listen to the 3rd verse thinking that it was going to sound different. No, you clicked off after the 1st verse. So I think we're at a point where we can let people, you know, create their own switch ups. And then if I do have a beat where I feel like, you know what, there's a special moment that I want them to absolutely incorporate in this beat that I don't think that they'll arrange and put together this way, I'll make that the 2nd verse, or I'll add a pre-chorus before the chorus that goes and, you know, gives them the ability to have all those different parts to where they can make a more unique 3rd verse or whatever.
But the one thing that changed as I got older is that I'm not, and for good reason, having a lot of conversations with kids. You know, if I'm in the schools or if, you know, I'm interacting, like my girlfriend has a daughter that's young and, you know, she's watching TikToks and stuff. And sometimes I just have to stop and be like, okay, what is that song? If I'm not regularly communicating with the next generation, it's hard for me to really know where the sound of the culture is trending.
That is a super good point. So when I moved to Michigan, I was in my mid-30s, but the people that I hung out with were a generation younger than me. So they were in their 20s, mid-20s, early 20s. And that allowed me to listen to what music they're listening to. And surprisingly, a lot of the music that they're listening to was also the music that I was already listening to. So for example, I would say, hey, play some Yeet. And sure enough, like, they didn't even know who Yeet was at the time. So I've been in that situation where, you know, I realize I'm still kind of ahead of the curve, at least at that time when it came to having my ear to the ground with what's out there and what's kind of rising up. And I say that like I'm not anymore. And I'm realizing I still am now, only because I recently did another round of research of, if I were to make type beats, who would I make type beats for? And that included people like Ian, and Ian would probably be the most popular person on my list. But there was a lot of other people that were on the list that are not very popular at all, that I think will come up in the future. So I have been listening to a lot more of the newer style of music, which is why I've commented on videos from Ellis Lost. He has a few videos on the new sound of trap and the different genres that are popping up. And yeah, sure enough, like, he's nailing it in terms of really describing them and showing how to make it and so on and so forth. But these are things that I've implemented with my own beats just because I'm a huge fan of the super trap sound. Rest in peace to Soulker. Like, he's the one that really kind of inspired me moving into that direction. I wouldn't necessarily call his sound super trap, but it was, to me, that was the beginning or the cusp of it. Listening to Soulker, and there's a handful of other guys that had that high quality, more melodic, well mixed sound. But there's guys out here like Graves. I really like his style of production, and he's really smart about the visuals that he's using. Not gonna lie, I'm copying that same thing, not because I care about the results that he's getting, or not because I think that that's what's making him money or anything like that. I actually had that same concept in my head. I was like, these rappers are creating these amazing visualizers now. And what I used to do, I used to use visualizers in my beats. And in the background, it would be my FL Studio with a visualizer recorded on top of it, rather than here's a Bart Simpson cartoon and then a little sound wave, or a weird little graphic icon. And then like, I always thought that crap was lame. That's why I never did it. I always did what I thought was interesting. And I would always get comments about, well, not always, but I definitely got comments about my visualizers and how I was doing something different. But main point being, I've always been someone that wanted to use visualizers. And when I saw Metro Boomin's visualizers for Not All Heroes Wear Capes, that's when I made the decision, if I ever did post beats online, like, I would want to create visualizers like this, but a lot of people are using actual rap videos for videos on their beats, but they're just using regular rap videos, like classic rap videos. And I'm just like, there's really dope looking rap videos out here. You just need to make a collection of them and then use that as your visualizer. But I think it's more entertaining, and I don't feel threatened by giving out that information because I would want to see more people do it, because the visualizer that you come up with is not going to be the same as mine. Like, there's too many of them out there now to where your compilation, your edit is going to be different than mine. And I want to see it. Because it looks freaking cool. Like, I want to see more art like that, because I consider it art. Like, what you put together. My little brother used to do this. He used to put dope music together with his favorite anime clips. They were called AMVs. Ah, man, I forget the acronym for what those were called, but they used to be really popular. Not his, but that concept used to be really popular. And I was going to do that. I was going to do that with Bleach, and I still might, with Bleach and Dragon Ball Z, One Punch Man, stuff like that. But yeah.
And here's a fellow producer that's over 40. Bolo, the producer, I wanted to have him on here face to face, but I got super sick. It was COVID. Oh my God, it was terrible. He recently dropped a video that was titled "Producers Over 40 Years Old Don't Do This." I had to watch this, so let's watch this.
To all of my unks and my unkettes out here who are...
Little Inception moment. You're watching me watch DJ Payne watch Bolo.
producing over the age of 40 years old, congratulations by living a good and healthy life.
We're already off to a positive start. Here we go. This is way better than my intro.
And I want to talk about something that you should not do when producing.
It's so funny. Like, I mentioned in another clip or another video about, attracting what you attract in your comments and DMs. I was honestly talking about DJ Payne. And he knows it. Like he knows, like he's admitting it right here. He's like, oh, that was a lot more positive than like he knows what he's doing.
Okay, before we continue, this is the guy behind.
And even though he knows what he's doing, it's not on purpose either. Like it's just his personality. Like that's the way he carries his life. Like that's how he lives his life. Like he talks about things that he wants to talk about the way that he wants to talk about them. And that's the result of it. It's not like he's out here purposely doing that as a way to do any, like, no, he's just being himself. Like,
behind the Silence He'll Watch Me beat. This song is inching towards diamond status. It's 6 times platinum right now. And I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, that song. This is why I love Bolo, because this song, this song was the most requested song while I was DJing. Shout out to Bolo. The most requested song while I was DJing. Watch me whip, watch me name it. And why is that so crazy? Because yeah, 2016. Yeah, that makes me realize, yeah, right when I was producing or DJing. Certification date 2016. So yeah, it was the summer before that. Oh man, it didn't matter if it was a wedding, it didn't matter if it was a party, it didn't matter what it was. It didn't matter what it was. Freaking 5-year-olds whipping and nay-naying. Oh man.
Is inching towards diamond status. It's 6 times platinum right now. And I just wanted to confirm this also. He was 17 years old, so this was 9 years ago. He was 17 years old when that track came out. So Bolo, the producer, was working with a 17-year-old, and that was a huge hit. I mean, obviously a huge hit.
When I work with other guys who are a little bit older, there's a common theme that I see with a lot of producers who are over the age of 40, 50, 55, 60. But there's one thing that you should not do under any circumstances. This is something that I've seen over and over again. When you get to a certain age, you could be a little stubborn. But one thing you cannot do is try to force old school production on these young kids. I see it time and time again, like when some of my, buddies who are a little bit older, they come through and they...
I'm trying to picture
I think he's about to ask what I was about to ask. I'm like, what scenario, like, how does that happen? Or what is he describing? Or can he describe what he's talking about? Like, when he says force your style of production, how do you do that? You're going to use this beat. Like, I'm curious. I'm not making fun of him by any means. I'm just curious, like, where he's going with this. And I think that's what Payne's about to ask here.
Session that you're a producer and you were, someone that wants to sound like Von Off 1700, and you're like,
hey, we just mentioned Von Off, Chi-Town.
Oh, you gotta check out this beat I made. It sounds like the first Gangstar album.
And they play some beats and they're like, yo, what artist you think can get on this? And be honest with you, I just tell them like, hey, I don't think nobody's gonna get on this right now, especially anybody who's a little younger. And then they look at me with this crazy face like, what do you mean? Like, this is classic hip hop. This is real music.
Yeah, and I didn't like classic hip hop when I was a kid. I didn't like classic hip hop when I was a kid. So why would these kids like it now? Shoot.
Older producers can be stubborn. That's the stubborn.
I liked hip hop with what Timbo was doing. I liked hip hop with what Pharrell was doing. I liked hip hop with what, and what's funny? The first, I mentioned the first album that I ever bought, first hip hop album anyway, Jay-Z Volume 2. Who produced that? Who was one of the main producers on there? Let y'all do your research. So I was always looking for people that were pushing the envelope. They were doing something new. They were changing the sound. I didn't like listening to, this is classic. Well, stick with it. Then go play your classic shit. Go play your classic shit. There's plenty of classic. That's why it's called classic. It already exists. You could go listen to it. Why are you making something that already exists? Like, we should be making the new classic. Like, what's the next classic? It ain't going to be an old classic. You're making useless music. You're making useless music. Stop bringing nothing back. The only person that can bring anything back is Justin Timberland with Justin Timberland. That's hilarious. The only person bringing anything back is Justin Timberlake with Justin. The only person bringing anything back is Justin Timberlake with Justin. The only person bringing anything back is Justin Timberlake with Timbaland. That's the only. Those are the only people allowed to bring anything back. Stop trying to bring back nothing else.
Burn camp, the camp that resists trends. But there's something that I got to get off my chest. Let me listen a little more. There's something that I feel like is missing from the conversation. It's interesting. It's a phenomenon that I've noticed over the years.
I'm just being honest with you. Like, these kids right now on a whole nother wave. If somebody was born in 1970 and they were 18 in 1988, they were on a different wave than somebody who was born in 1980 and they were 18 in 1998.
Isn't that crazy to think that at one point
I'm not gonna lie, I got lost in the math there.
music that's considered old people music was very cutting edge and controversial? This is why I tweeted, producers that make fun of other producers for being older are wild to me, because do not know how time works. Like, if you're
Again, I've never seen that. But I guarantee you he does. I guarantee you he does. And that's not saying it don't exist. Of course it exists. But it goes in a certain direction, you know? It exists in certain spaces.
You're a 22-year-old on Twitter talking shit about someone that's in their 30s. Bitch, you're about to be 30. Like, do the math. Public education system can't be that bad.
And that's what I mean. Like, he always points out, like, the worst of the worst. And which attracts the worst of the worst, because he points out things that he doesn't need to tell anyone. Like, he's saying, yeah, he admits there's no way public education is that bad. If you know it's not that bad, you know that it's a one-off comment or some weird thing but now you're going to attract more of that mindset. You attract a lot more of that by letting people know, hey, these are the type of comments that I get. This is the level of thinking, the level of frequency that I get. You only get more of it by putting it out there. You don't get less of it. You don't get less of it. And I realize I attract it just by even commenting on his commentary. But I'm okay with it because I think he's okay with it too, because it seems like he handles it no problem.
Year gap was a different wave. And then somebody who was born in 1990 that was 18 in 2008, that was a different wave.
That's true.
So every single decade, there's a different wave all the time. Now, this wave right here is kind of been the same, you know, maybe.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I feel like once we get into a 20-year time gap, that's when people start looking at going from, okay, that's classic to, hey, that's retro. And I think that's where we're at with the early 2000s, where, you know, the Roland Phantoms and the Silence and the sounds that are coming out of Xenology are retro or have that retro vibe to them. And people are gravitating towards that because those are the sounds that they used to hear on the radio when they were listening to hip hop, listening to trap, listening to literally the most popular genre in the history of the world. So that's, you know, we got to remember that, you know, hip hop didn't get to where it was at until trap music came into play. And, you know, I know that will be controversial for people, but it's the truth. 50 Cent was one of the biggest rappers in the world with that West Coast sound, but it was that West Coast sound after Eminem, right? Like, it was after it progressed into, man, I really like these beats now. Like, I don't care. I'll argue with people all day long. Like, I know what I hear. The beats got better, and I know people will love that classic old school Dre or whatever, but, you know, it wasn't until Eminem and 50 Cent where I actually started loving the production of what Dr. Dre was doing. And that sound is not, I wouldn't consider that, classic West Coast, right? So I'm always looking for people pushing the envelope and changing up the sound. And yeah, I feel like it's hard to do with just classic hip hop, because in my head, classic hip hop is just New York, just straight up New York 80s. And it's, I don't know, that sound was dead to me while I was growing up. Like, the Will Smith style of rap. Like, I didn't like listening to Will Smith, except for, if he would come out with a movie, I might listen to the soundtrack. Wild Wild West, Men in Black. But other than that, I wasn't, out here buying old school classic sounding hip hop albums. I was buying what was considered the new classics, and that's Jay-Z Volume 2, The Blueprint, Graduation, Late Registration. And that's, we're talking about non-trap, right? But all of that was happening when trap was starting to come into play. Not Jay-Z Volume 2 and Blueprint and all that, but when hip-hop started becoming global. It was right when trap was coming into play, because now you had the Europeans dabbling in the trap sound, and that's how we got the EDM trap, which I absolutely despise. I hate that sound. I hate it. You got to develop your taste somehow, and the way you develop your taste is figuring out what you don't like and figuring out what you like. So if you're out here offended by me saying I hate this sound or that sound, then you're not really an artist, are you? You're not really into music. Like, you gotta hate something. You gotta figure out what you actually have a taste in, and you could appreciate other things too. Like I said, even though you don't like it, because I didn't like West Coast, and I can appreciate West Coast. Traditional West Coast. But yeah, continuing on.
Maybe in 2028 might be a little bit different, you know what I'm saying? But really, since about 2015 to about now, this has kind of been pretty steady.
I kind of disagree, because I feel like now it's a great shift. Correct me if I'm wrong.
He said 2015 to now. That's a weird time frame to chop it off at. But I could tell you, even 2020 to now is different. But definitely when I got started on YouTube, 2018, that sound is very different than what's out here now. And this reminds me of another video that I saw from this other guy that tried to make that same argument, but for a longer time period. My thought in my head was that this guy just listens to too much rock music. Like that's just what it is. Anyone that feels like, oh, nothing's changing, you're kind of just self-reporting that you don't really listen to a lot of music. That's all you're really doing. You're just saying, hey, I don't listen to a lot of music. And when I say a lot of music, I don't mean literally the quantity of music. I mean the variety of music. So there's a difference, because I absolutely believe Bolo listens to a large quantity or a large quantity of music, but the variety is probably not there if he thinks that 2025 sounds like 2015. I would say that's not accurate. Yeah.
Leave a comment. I would love to flesh this idea out a little more, but it strikes me that rap music and R&B music is changing quite a bit, and you're now...
Ooh, R&B. Yeah, let's talk about that. R&B has changed so much that I can't even make today's R&B. Soul chords, trap soul chords, those chord progressions, you come up with some good chord progressions, but in terms of the sonics, and like I would have to actually go through and download some new drums, I would have to go through and curate my one shots. I would have to go through and start creating new preset banks. Yeah, today's R&B is not 90s R&B, y'all. Like it has more of a modern sound to it, even more polished, and still using what it is still using from 90s is drum machines. So classic drum machine percussion, stuff like that. And even more exotic drum machine percussion. So drum machine sounds that we might have found corny back in the day. Those are starting to be used a lot more, but processed better, you know? And that's why I like mixing, y'all. That's why I like mixing and sound design, because you can make any crappy sound out of this world, sound amazing, sound new, sound unique. You just got to know what you're doing.
Seeing very different mixing techniques. There are still some common themes that continue over the years.
And that's what I was talking about with chords, you know? Really, your chords are your foundation in terms of the instrumentation. So your chords are going to determine the genre, just like the drums determine the genre for with the rhythm that you do. So there's foundational elements that are going to always be there. And just like, you know, with the R&B example, that's why you're still hearing drum machines, because that has that R&B vibe to it. Yeah, it is what it is.
Snares not landing on the 2 and the 4. We heard snares land on the 2 and the 4 for decades.
You said it, the snares. Offbeat snares. Yep, I love it. I love it.
All of a sudden, there was that brief period in the 90s when a lot of...
And yeah, let me play exactly what he's talking about. Listen to the second snare. Hear that offbeat? So yeah, instead of the snare hitting, well, let me, I'm going to point my finger when the snare should hit, when the second snare should hit, but it doesn't, so that you can clearly hear what's going on there, how it's different. So instead of the snare coming in when I said no, it came after I said no. It basically went no with silence and then snare, no snare. That's why I was saying no snare. And sometimes I doubled up that snare with the ch-ch. So no, snare, snare, instead of snare, no. I hope I didn't make that more. I hope I didn't make that even more complicated than it is. But you know what's really cool about that pattern? That originates from drill, y'all. That originates from drill. So, and where does drill get that from? That's probably something that we can tie back to something that's more Caribbean, more around more Latin, because I'm not sure if they have or African. Yeah, I'm not sure what other cultures might have that offbeat like that, to where drill would take that and start doing that. But I guarantee you it's something from that that started getting incorporated with drill. And what's that population that I know that there's like a strong Haitian population in Canada. I was thinking, you know, maybe, yeah, no, scratch all that. I was thinking about drill up north, but really the main drill scenes would be New York and UK. So whatever heavy populations are going on in those areas, which, you know, those two areas are a huge melting pot of different cultures. So I'm not sure where that offbeat snare originates from, but I know before it came here, it was in drill. So, but now I love that sound, and I love that it's being brought into more traditional sounding trap beats and not, you know, that crazy 808 bass that you be hearing in drill beats. That crap gets annoying. But I've definitely heard some good drill beats. But I actually don't like the hi-hat patterns that are in the, like, I'm not into that hi-hat pattern. Again, you got to develop your own tastes. Figure out what you like.
Music was fusing with dancehall, and that's an entirely different rhythm. But that rhythm in dancehall has been consistent for a while too, and I think even dancehall is changing and using.
Okay, so Payne's saying that that's originally from dancehall. So, yeah, I don't listen to any dancehall. And when I think of dancehall, I think of Jersey Club. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe that's something I should look into.
Less conventional rhythms for the drum patterns because of the popularity of drill. I don't even know if it's drill, that's like post-drill. It's what's coming after drill. Boss Man D-Lo just dropped a single where that snare.
Yeah, Boss Man D-Lo, that's an artist that I can hear my beats on. If I went my traditional, you know how I was saying the early 2000s are now retro? That's what Boss Man D-Lo is rapping on now. It sounds like, you know, modernized retro, you know, just like when people started making synthwave. That's what I mean with 80s becoming popular in the 2000s. We turned it into synthwave. So that's what I'm hearing with the early 2000s, and 20 years later here in 2025, we're synthwaving the early 2000s now. So it's not that we're replicating the 90s sound. No, like, listen to what Shark and Tumpy and all of them are doing. Like, it's a different sound. And yeah, I just love seeing this progression. I really do.
One of those snares was not hitting on the fourth count. I think things are changing right now. I think we're witnessing a lot of transformation in the way rap, pop, hip-hop beats are created, and it'll be interesting to see if drum patterns get crazier or if they revert back to your conventional snare hitting on the 2 and the 4 count.
Some of us, we get stuck in our old ways. And then when we get stuck in our old ways, we don't necessarily know how stuck we are.
Yes, yep,
you know what I'm saying? We don't know. And it's not a bad thing. If you're happy doing what you do, by all means, be happy doing what you do. However, as being somebody who's a little bit older, these kids are not looking at it in the way that we are looking at it, saying, well, we need to bring back the classic hip hop and the classic sounds and whatever.
Yeah. And they shouldn't be, because no one ever asked you to bring anything back, because we already have it. We already have it. And no one is interested in bringing back what you want to bring back. Like, they could go listen to that. They're interested in doing what they want to do. They're interested in making their next thing. They're interested in standing out. How are they going to stand out by sound like what's already been done? Like, it makes no sense. I do not blame anyone for not wanting to work with that. I don't.
Which you can do that. Now, there is some kids out here who are on their vibe.
All right, so here's my theory. Golden era hip-hop never dies. It ducks out of the picture for a little while, and I'm talking about the mainstream, but eventually there's a revival. And
yeah, golden era hip-hop, J Dilla drums, you know, the classic sample sound is never going to go away, because that is the that is the tradition of hip hop. That's how hip hop started. And that really speaks to me as a person where I was never really into that. Like, and that's why I am a composer. That is why I actually play keys. That is why I actually learned my instrument, because I was never into, hey, let me just sample this. And that's not to say I've done entire sample albums, not just producing, but rapping and singing on them. Like I've done all of that. And that's how I know I'm so passionate about my decision to just continue composing, because I missed it. I literally can't not do it. I can't not do it. Like before I even made beats, I spent a year making nothing but piano compositions. I had 2 piano albums. And to make those albums, I didn't have the technology of a DAW. I had a Yamaha Clavinova, and I had to play the song straight through to record it. So full 3 minutes, no mistakes. That's how I got good at playing piano, making my own songs and learning how to play my own shit. And that's how I knew that I was getting better, because my shit was hard enough to play to where I couldn't play it all the way through. But by the end of the album, by the end of I had a 12 track and a 14 track. So I made 26 songs like that. That'll get you good real quick. That'll get you good real quick. So, yeah, just playing what I wanted to hear. Just melody. We're not talking about sound design. We're not talking about instrumentation. We're not talking about drums. Like how much time have you dedicated to just one aspect of beat making? Y'all want to know why I'm so good? Y'all want to know why I'm so confident with, oh yeah, you want a beat battle? Like I can make a beat battle beat and beat you, and I can make an actual record sounding beat and beat you. So that level of creation comes from having that much passion within each of those elements. I used to not be able to make drums. I used to have my friend make all the drums. And that allowed me to concentrate on making the melodies. And at that time, I was already good at making melodies. That was way beyond me teaching myself piano. At that point, I was doing sound design. So I got to completely focus on sound design and mixing while my friends focused on the drums. And then after I figured all that out, then I was able to focus on drums. It took me years before I even touched drums. Years before I touched a single drum pattern that was good. I made drum patterns, of course, but my first drum pattern ever, the snare was where the kick should be. That's how lost I was. I was like, yeah, you just hear these hits. I had no sense of, never paid attention, nothing. And this is someone that, yeah, I love Jay-Z and I love Timbaland, but I had no idea why. I was not paying attention to the breakdown of what it is that makes music. And that's what Payne is talking about with the drum patterns changing and so on and so forth, and where we're at now, and learning, what makes a genre.
It happens when you have kind of a trend away from that sound, an absence of boom bap in the mainstream for a long period. I'll explain. So when I was in high school, there was this long era where the dominant mainstream sound was, No Limits run, Cash Money's run. All of a sudden, here's Eminem, and he's the biggest, the highest selling rapper ever in history, and he comes from that golden era battle rap scene. Not that there weren't other artists doing that. I'm talking about on a mainstream level. Suddenly he's this superstar and sets a new trend in motion where a lot of rappers now want to sound like him.
I'm not sure why the bit rate all of a sudden
want to do battle rap. They want to rap over bouncy boom bap beats. Then there's a period where that sound really isn't super dominant, and we had that era with all the Kanye production, and that was kind of golden era, but it was a little updated. Still soul samples. It was kind of a bridge between the 90s into the 2000s. But then there was a period where that wasn't really present in mainstream hip hop, and all of a sudden, who do we have burst onto the scene? Odd Future. Tyler the Creator's breakout single was super 90s sounding. And all these little all these little kids thought it was the coolest thing ever. The reason is because it's counterculture all of a sudden. You're making music that goes against what's popular, and so it feels edgy, even though it's been done before. But what you have to understand is that the generation of Odd Future fans was so far removed from the 90s, they were discovering that sound for the first time, so it felt completely new. After Odd Future, Mac Miller, Joey Badass and Pro Era, that kind of stopped being mainstream for a while, and now we have Griselda, and they're not necessarily young guys, but still there's that presence of the 90s sound and production style in the current landscape. My theory is that within the next few years, we're going to hear a lot of similar music that's trending away from 90s era boom bap, golden era hip hop. And then maybe 3 years from then, when boom bap is just not present, we're going to have another young generation revival of golden era hip hop. But I love the conversation Bolo's having because it's very easy for us older producers to point out all the flaws.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's all a loop. Everything comes in cycles, comes in waves. And, with that being said, if you're smart, you could pay attention to these things and kind of predict them coming around. In fact, that's one of the things that I used to talk about on my channel when I first got started, was actually predicting what the sound was going to be for that year. And I literally had people come back to those videos and say, "Man, I can't believe you knew exactly the bass sound in the box." When that got really, really popular. And I had talked about the idea that the sound of bass was going to change, where we're not just going to be using Spins 808 all the time. And sure enough, here we are with CTM 808 and all kinds of variations of synth basses now because of Mike Dean. And, I made videos like that way before Travis Scott was really, on the scene and popular. Well, maybe, yeah. When did Travis Scott get popular? It was probably around that time, but the reason I started making synth basses in my music was actually because of a type beat producer, Cash Money AP. And I liked the idea or the concept that he was doing. He would have moments in the beat where the 808 was playing, and then more dramatic moments where the 808 would drop out and then a synth bass would come in. And I was like, man, yeah, why aren't we doing that? Like, why aren't we having, we have dropouts and new sounds come in all the time with the main melodies. Why aren't we doing that with bass lines? So I started doing that back in 2019, just like him, and literally did a 30-day beat challenge where almost every beat did that. And now I it's a part of what I do. I don't ever have just one bass line in my beats. Typically I don't. And I've even had friends that aren't, music producers or artists or anything. They're not in the music industry. Like, they just happen to be listening to one of my songs and they're like, hey, this is weird. This has like 2 bass lines in it. Like, they notice that. Like, it's noticeable for the casual listener. And I didn't realize that it was that powerful. Like, it affected me on a high degree, and I was pleased to find out that it also resonates with the listener too. Like, listeners like hearing this. But you don't learn those things until you freaking apply it, put your music out there, and start getting feedback. And then when you get that feedback, that's when you're going in the right direction or wrong direction, and then you course correct from there. But yeah, that's all I got.